site. And I believe there may be options for receiving a certificate of attendance to today's event. But I don't know that we are offering official continuing education units for this event. Lastly, we will be asking you to complete a short survey. This survey is important to our center, and it allows us to continue to provide events and webinars such as this. Please, if you can, take a few moments to fill out this short survey. I'll post a link to that survey in the chat box as well towards the conclusion of today's event. You don't have to complete the survey, but we would appreciate hearing back from you. The answers are all confidential and cannot be linked to you in any way. If you have any questions about this, please reach out to myself here at the center. I also have on the line here today Parker, who is a colleague of mine. He is part of our comms department, and he would be happy to answer any questions you have in the chat today if you're having difficulty signing on or having any other technical difficulties. So again, we really appreciate you all being here today. I know we're gathered here virtually, but we want to take a few moments to acknowledge the land and pay respect to the indigenous nations whose homeland was forcibly taken and inhabited. Please take a moment to read this land acknowledgement, which was created by 3 members of our team, Ella and Keely Driscoll and Sean Mayer. Thank you. Without further ado, I want to introduce our panelists today. We have Dr. Dan Foster, Shirley Holmberg, Ray Daw, Jim Weichel, Teresa Subrill, and we will be expecting and are looking for a few others to join as today's broadcast progresses. So I want to welcome our panelists and welcome you all to today's broadcast. So I am going to take down those slides. And Parker, if you can, keep an eye open for Kiawe, Sean, and I don't know if Robert was going to join or not, but we'll certainly have them here and make sure that they have the correct nameplate on their Zoom screen. So again, I want to turn the floor over to Mr. Jim Weichel to get us started off in the right way. And Ray, I'll pull up your slides here as Jim is getting us started. Thank you.
Yeah, it's Gano for Bagel. No go ha isni gazo or the only name of the shouty. A lot doga guy Gahono ni Kanawege anyway. Day. Greetings everybody. I'm glad you're all here. I introduced myself in Cayuga, but my English name is Jim, and I am a citizen of the Seneca Cayuga Nation of Oklahoma. Currently, I'm in Salem, Oregon at work. And I'm going to open us with a very short version of our Kanohanyo Court Thanksgiving speech. And I'll say it in Cayuga. So, Swagwego, Swati Hosi Yos, Nigai Waka. That put in a horn yone angwesoa. That put in a horn yone at Naha Ojide. That put in a horn yone had a wanarage on quatrani. That put in a horn yone waya niato. That put in a horn yone ori haruni. That put in a horn yone gadino. That put in a horn yone onakaka onio. That put in a horn yone ganheko. That put in a horn yone deyo wawenye. The atini horn yone tiso at haruin doggies. That's what in a horn yone said waja adika gagwagis. The atini horn yone tiso asohinka nidagis. The atini horn yone ojisadaja. He tinyo honyo ni na go de ge hare hoya kahono. That's when the honyo ne singodiso. Danato, Nagat Gwenny, Agi, Agagada, Kanohanyo, Danato, and Yahweh.
Thank you very much, Jim. Ray, I have the slides up. They are in PDF version, so I'll just have to advance them on a screen.
Okay.
But I will turn the floor over to you to get us started today. And we would like to encourage everyone to utilize the chat box for comments or questions. And we will also at some point open the floor up for discussion with the group and certainly the other panelists. So with that, I will relinquish the floor to my colleague and friend, Mr. Ray Daw.
Thank you for relinquishing the floor, Steve. But I want to yate, shike, greetings, relatives. For those of you who haven't, who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, I'm a member of the Navajo Nation. My clans in Navajo are Kia'ani, that's my mother's clan. My father's clan is Tlizatlana. Then my maternal grandfathers are Sitnachini people. Then my paternal grandfathers are Twitachini people. Those are the four clans that I represent today, or peoples within the Navajo Nation. And while we were thinking about this session, Robert Begay and I, we were contemplating on what spring entails for many of our people, and how it is that we are grateful for our life cycle throughout the year, but also have strong gratitude for this time of each year that we live in. And so when we honed in on the title of our time with you today, we thought we'd have a discussion around perseverance and strength, particularly as we are moving. We have begun moving into the third year of a pandemic. And I know here on Navajo land, a large majority of our people mask up because of the really, really difficult time that all our families endured during the first 2 years of the pandemic. And the breadth of the impact of infections and illness and death came to our lands again. Yeah, once again, this is not our first pandemic. We've endured more than one in our lives, and in our histories. You know, our people have endured not only pandemics but epidemics that took off the face of this earth. More than here in the lower 48, estimates are around 50 million of our people passed in the first couple centuries of the colonization period. There's so many lives lost throughout North America, Central America, and South America that did affect the world's climate and environment. And those are some of the consequences of those early epidemics and moving into the pandemics that happened afterward. So we know that our ancestors endured quite a lot, and consequently that has an effect on how many of us view our strengths and our perseverance. So that's how we came in on this title. We're looking at our ancestral history, our people's history, and where we are today. So thank you for that. Next slide, please. Many of our people have adapted the Euro-American systems brought into our world. In Navajo, we've done pretty creative work around adapting our ways to the Gregorian calendar. You know, you've got to remember that the Gregorian calendar, the 12-month period that we use to function in the world these days, largely, is something that you know, my ancestors looked at and say, okay, you know, we have these months of January, February, March, April, and so on to December, but you know, what does that mean to us? And so our elders a couple generations ago went and looked at what is described as January and said, you know, this is what happens in January for our people, and we'll name it that way. And so for January, our adaptation to January is Yasaltes, which is, as you see, the crusting or icing of snow. You know, snow gets really cold and it gets crusty. And so our elders did that to all of the 12 months. And what we wanted to share this knowledge with you so that you can understand that many of our people have done that, you know, in our history. And certainly Navajo is not unique that way, but you know, this is our rendition of the Gregorian calendar that we use. I mean, I think almost every family in Navajo land gets an updated Navajo adapted Gregorian calendar every year, and we get to put them up. And there's our housing authority prints these really big. I guess they're like 4x3 poster-sized calendars for our people every year, and they give them out every year to our residents and customers within the Navajo reservation, Navajo Nation. So we get really strong updates to this every year. Go ahead, next slide. And this is what some of our Navajo land winters look like. You know, we get snow up here. We're in a pretty high plateau of in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. I live in an area that is probably 6,500 feet up in elevation, which is kind of hard for a lot of people to kind of conceptualize it, because many of the lands in the United States are at or just above sea level. Iowa, I think, is like about 1,000 feet, 1,500 feet up. So we're way up there in elevation. So our air is thin, and we get really strong summer weather, and we get really strong winter weather. This scene is actually from my family land. This is where my family lives from, looking east. And that hill that you see, it's named White Clay Hill. So is the name of that Glacier de Clay, which means the hill colored with clay, white clay. That's what that means. And that's where some of my ancestral roots are from, this area. And you'll see that we traversed around the lands pretty regular. So actually from one of my brother's homes. So we get snow here in Navajo, and we deal with the consequences of living in a cold and wintry and snowy environment. You know, our Navajo people have adapted to that very well over the centuries, and we continue to do that. Thank you. Go ahead, next two. If you see anything in chat that that I should make note of, Steve or anybody there, let me know. So going back to the Navajo version of the Gregorian calendar, I mentioned what January entails for us. You know, January is a time like you saw earlier when snow is on the ground and water is frozen and the lakes and the streams are frozen and the ponds are frozen. And a lot of Native people over the course of the millennia would take snow and melt it and use it for living purposes. And Navajo wasn't that much different. We gathered the snow and melted it and drank it and used it for cooking and stuff. I have a funny story about this. I remember Shirley Fairbanks during my tour. We were out in the boonies, way out in the tundra one time, and with a bunch of other guys, and it was a really cold winter morning. We're out in the field, and the guys in the tent were really worried because all the water froze, and they were wondering what to do for water. And the response that I had for them was, go and get some snow, let's melt it. You know, which was a little bit out of the norm for a lot of these white African American and Hispanic young men, was the concept of melting snow for personal use. But we did that, and that's how we attained our water in the tundra of northern Alaska. So it has good relevance to and the teachings of that. February, we named that Tsapiyaj, or the time when baby eagles come to life, you know, when they hatch. And with Navajo people and our adaptation to life, you know, we have sheep, horses, and cows that are really important to us, and they are in our songs and our prayers always. And during February, we get to care for them as the young sheep and horses and other animals come to life. It's not only the eagles that come to life, but all the other animals that we're blessed to have in our lands. And then March is Wushchi, or when the first sounds are made by baby eagles, but also the land begins to come to life in a different kind of way in March. You know, and we see the growth of young baby animals, and as they begin to move around in our lands. In April, for ours, is Achil, which is when plants begin to come out of the earth and begin to see leaves on the ground. And it's a time when we begin to get ready for the warmer time. Right now, many of our people are beginning to get their fields ready for planting. I was talking to a farmer relative up in northern Navajo yesterday. He said he's getting his irrigation lines ready, cleaned up. He's clearing the field, and for planting, which is going to go for him, is going to happen in the first week of May. He says he's going to start planting in the first week of May. So he said, I got a couple of weeks to really get ready and work hard on getting my fields ready. He has several acres that he plants corn, squash, and beans on. So this is what this season of the year entails for us, what we're calling spring. Next slide, please. Steve? And this is what our lands begin to look like right now. This is a picture of the same hill, White Clay Hill, a couple of weeks ago, actually. You know, you see the snow is pretty much gone, and you see vegetation begin to show up on the earth. Trees are showing up a lot greener. And this particular time, a couple of weeks ago, you know, we had a full moon. So I was able to get a picture of the full moon sitting on top of the hill, looking east still. And so coming out of winter, going in at this time while the ground is beginning to has been drying up. I know my family, my brothers, we've gone into the hills to gather wood, among other things for spring and summer use, because most of my siblings burn wood for heating and cooking. So we spend a good amount of time up in the hills of our region to get wood. It might be a little far-fetched for a lot of people, but we have many relatives who do that. And I have siblings that do that also. But this is spring, beginning of springtime, warming time for all of us. Go ahead, Steve.
Ray, I wanted to mention, I think Robert is logged on, so I think he's with us.
Yeah, I got a note from him that he was trying to sign in, but wasn't having good connection.
Okay. He's here.
He's here?
Yes.
Oh, I'm here, Jay.
Welcome, Robert.
Yeah, that's Jay. Ashanan, can you quick? Yeah, I'd say Hashna.
Jono Bahalina.
That's a Hansi. Go ahead, Robert.
So,
nope.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Navajo, and I do apologize for joining late. The wind up here in Crystal's really bad, and it's messing around with our Wi-Fi out here. So I just want to make a comment. What Ray was talking about, the season from January to April. On the ceremonial side on this, or at least one of the things that Navajos, or at least consistently do, is this is the time when a lot of Navajos in traditional ways would perform ceremonies for rain, for a good spring rain, summer rain, and throughout the year. So this is the time of year to ask for the rain to bless the earth and bless the people. Again, it's some that very few Navajos do today. A lot of the times in the past, or in the last few years, in the last 10 years, Navajos don't have started to think about asking for rain, but late in the season, like in August, September, October. But traditionally, this is the time of period when we ask for rain and perform ceremonies to request for rain and moisture. Thank you. ATTC.
Thank you for that description of the real major part of our lives. And my grandson, Robert is my grandson by clan. I mentioned that I am Kia'ani. My mother's clan is Kia'ani. His maternal grandfathers, Robert's paternal grandfathers, are the same as my mother's clan. So that makes him my grandson. And that makes me his grandfather. And so when you hear us say Che to each other, we're acknowledging our clan and our family relationship. And this is something that Robert and I take very seriously in our relationship. And we do have a really good, I think, grandfather-grandson relationship. He teaches me, and I hope I teach him also. So that's how we are in our ways. We have relatives all over the place. And as my grandson said, mentioned earlier, our practices adapt to the seasons right now. And in some Wojonja ceremonies, Bidui ceremonies, as the planting time begins to come on, some folks will have Wojonja ceremonies, and they'll have included in their songs, included in their prayers and songs, offerings and blessings and phrases that include acknowledging that this is a time for planting. There'll be a lot more corn songs, for example, horse songs, Klibiyin, Debebiyin, sheep songs will be included in these ceremonies of this particular kind of year to bless them, to be able to grow into stronger herds. And that's part of the adaptations that we make in our ceremonial ways and our blessing ways. So this particular slide here is intended to show how we describe April. The coming the beginning of green life on the lands. And I'm blessed to have a piece of land off reservation where I've been living in this spot for about 20 years. And the person that lived here before took time to plant tulips on the land. So every year, these tulips come out. There's 5 of them that come out every year. And I feel so blessed by this that when I see the first tulip leaf come out of the ground, I begin taking pictures every Friday of them. So every Friday I stand outside, take a picture of the tulip plants as they begin to come out of the earth. And this is something I've been doing for as far back as I remember. So every year I have these picture sets of the tulips beginning to grow. And right now they're beginning to bud, so you can see the buds of the tulips right now. The other thing is that this winter has been a particularly longer winter than usual. Generally, these tulips will begin to come out of the earth around late February, early March. So they're actually coming out of the earth a month later than what I'm used to seeing. But this is how they look right now, last Friday. And I think by next Friday, they'll be, the buds will have begun to open up. But I thought it showed us as an example of how we acknowledge the growth of plants that we're blessed with on our lands. Thank you. Anything else, Che? You want to include?
Not at the moment, Che.
Thank you. Next slide, please. And the other thing about that slide about the tulips, they've been underground coming out like that for over 20 years. So for me, that symbolizes strength and perseverance. You know, the fact that they come out and bless my world every year shows that their strength and how they persevere every year, you know. And so I protect the tulips with a ring of rocks to keep animals and kids and whatnot out of that area, because I think they just bless my life that way. And so that goes into the theme of what we thought we'd be able to do today, is talk about strength and perseverance, and how in our histories we have real strong representatives, teachings, and learning from our relatives historically, you know. And I'll share that in my family, for me personally, one of my major sources of strength and perseverance is my great grandfather. This is a picture of my great grandfather that was printed, shown a couple of years ago. I'd never met him, but I'd heard a number of stories from my mom, because she met him. And she used to herd sheep with him and lived with him for a time. So she got to know him well. His Navajo name is Hastin Chi, or red-haired man. Red-haired man is what he was named. And how he gives me strength and perseverance is that is how he taught my mom, and how he taught all his kids and grandkids from his own personal experience, life experience. You see him here wearing a Navajo blanket, hand woven and beads. And you see him wearing the headband, Navajo headband. He was a tahi, meaning he was a singer. He was I guess you call him medicine man, but we don't call him medicine man. But he was a helper. He knew ceremonies. He had a flock of sheep that he followed up to the end of his days, and he raised good kids. But the other part of the story that gives me strength and perseverance is that he was not full-blood Navajo. his mother, my great-great-grandmother, was taken, stolen actually from her family when she was a young lady. So my great-great-grandmother was taken into slavery by raiders from the east and taken somewhere out into New Mexico. My great-great-grandmother was. And she was given to a Spanish man to marry and to essentially be a slave to. And my great-great-grandmother had that happen to her. And when she came of child with my great-grandfather, she escaped and ran away. And the story is that my great-great-grandmother managed to hide and managed to travel hundreds of miles back into where her family was in Arizona. And when she came back to Hawk, where my family is from, gave birth to my great-grandfather on Navajo land. And that's always been a real major source of inspiration to me, that my great-great-grandmother did that. Escape from slavery, pregnant, and move across vast distance back to her family and give birth to my great-grandfather. And my great-grandfather, the reason why he has his name, Hastinchi, is because he was a red-haired Navajo man. His hair was red. And as a red-haired Navajo man, that physical feature identified him and grew into being a great leader. The story is that he led with other elders for much of the southern Navajo lands to remain Navajo, and that he fought for Navajo sovereignty and land ownership in the southern Navajo area, with quite a few others, and did blessings and stuff. So I thought I'd share this image of my great-grandfather, the story of his mother, my great-great-grandmother, as an example of how their experiences give me strength and perseverance. Because in my life, I can never contemplate having to walk hundreds of miles in the kind of conditions my great-great-grandmother did, and the challenges that my great-grandfather did as a half Navajo man, physically different, to live in the society that he did and become a really good man. And from his genes and my mother's genes, I come to be. And when I'm challenged or when I'm unsure about how things can be, I reflect on my great-great-grandmother, my great-grandfather, those two generations, and my mom, and think about the responsibility that places on me to have strength and to persevere. And through my life, and these times too, with my kids and my grandkids, and my great-great-grandkids. And this is a story that I thought I'd share with all of you as an example of my inspiration and my grounding and where I come from. And if you wonder ever, about where I come from or who I am, this is a big part of our history, a big part of my genes. And we know that we inherit from our ancestors strong genes as well. And those are the things that I think is always important to remember and to live by. So that's a story I wanted to share as a lead into other discussions about how we all have examples like this. We all do, and so thank you for that. Next slide, Steve. So I'd like to ask everyone, Che to share something about a story about an ancestor, relative, or friend who gives you strength and perseverance these days And because this is the time of the year when we do reflect on that, I think, and it certainly appears in their songs. So, Che Nadan Shah.
Yeah, Che. Again, and everybody, hello. My name is Robert. Again, I am Navajo. I am my first plant is Twochan, near the water people, and also born forth. My fathers are the edge of water people, and also my maternal, as I talked to Ray, he's my Che. He's a Towering House. So Towering House people are my Che's, and then my paternal. My Nollies are red streak running into water, and I am from Crystal, New Mexico. And again, this, there's a lot of times in this part of the year, we start seeing a lot of things waking up and insects coming out, prairie dogs coming out, things are coming out of hibernations and so forth. And it's really renewing a lot of those as the life cycle goes around again in the beginning of it. Again, a lot of the things that Ray had talked about, perseverance and strength, every one of us have it. It's some that gives us strength. It gives us certain things that makes us human. I mean, each one of us have our strengths, and we also have our weaknesses. And one thing that my Che is always telling younger generation when he does go and joins us at ceremonies, he's always talking to the younger generations about looking back at their history, looking back at where we as Navajos and we as Native American people have a history that really exemplifies perseverance, strength, and a lot of that has to deal with who we are as Indigenous people and Native peoples, and even non-Native peoples. Human people with five-fingered people, and we all have that. So again, depending on who, and my Che's always saying to, especially the young ladies in Navajo, is that, or anybody in young Navajos, and I've seen them talk about this, is that despite where you're thinking, the difficulties, the obstacles you may encounter, and that's just the way life is that even though you think that you're alone, you're never alone. You will never be alone through your lifetime. And that, a lot of that is talked about by our ancestors, our mentors, our grandfathers, our fathers, our mothers, and they always say that. One that I have that I think of often is my father. He probably would have been 103 right now, or actually 105. But he's always said that, and he taught this very well, that no matter where we are, we know certain things is certain, and that is death. And we go into old age, and we were not going to be part of this world physically like we are. But he was always talking about everlasting life. And he said that he always taught his kids, and me included, saying that everlasting life for you and for all of us is really what we learn from our ancestors and where we're going to go in the future. They will always be in our hearts. They will always be in our minds. They will always be in our planning and our thoughts. That's what makes us, and that's one of the qualities of, at least in Navajo, and I'm sure it happens across the world. This is where we get our perseverance and our strength. And no matter how bad our obstacles are, we are on Mother Earth. We are between Father Sky, and we live between them. And those are the things that my father has always talked about. And to this day, I try to instill that not only in my children, but people I meet with, and that when I do go meet with people, and in ceremonies, I always try to mention that based on what my father has taught me, and some of my other mentors, including my Che Ray here, that we are never alone, and that's what gives us strength. And who you look to, and this is the strength that you looked at to overcome obstacles. I have used quite a few things that I've been taught, but also I also look at my children for strength. They look up to me, and I look up to them, and they're the ones that really give me some strength. Sometimes that's I can't find anywhere else. So my kids are really a source of strength too, and also my wife. And again, that's all I got to say, Che. Back over to you.
Thank you very much, Che, for your story and describing strength and perseverance that way. I'd like to ask maybe, Jim, do you have a story to share with us? Then we'll just kind of go down the line. Jim, we'll have you lead the way.
Yeah, I can tell you a little bit about where I come from. I learned my family tree not long after I was given my name. And my first recorded male ancestor, I think, was recorded in 1770. And he was actually a white man that was taken captive. And he was taken captive by a man named Logan. And Logan was a war leader of our people in the Ohio Territory. And Logan's family had been murdered by settlers, and he went on a war path, revenge, down what they call the Seneca Trail from upstate New York all the way down into West Virginia. And from what I know, it was a small war party. It was he and some of our own warriors and some Shawnee warriors. They carried a bag of war clubs with them, and everywhere they raided, they left a war club as a calling card. And on the Pennsylvania, West Virginia line, they raided the Spicer farm. And as was the custom then, killed the adults and took the kids captive. And they took William Spicer and his little sister Elizabeth captive and took them back and raised them up as one of us, as our people. And when the girl got old enough, she was allowed to go back. She wanted to go back to her white family. And so she did, but she had learned healing and things like, herb medicines and herbs for healing from us, from our women. And she became a healer amongst her people. But William stayed. He became a man of stature. And I saw the family tree, and I think because the church or the patriarchy was doing a recording, it did not say the women's names. But he married a Mohawk woman, is what it says. And I've heard that she may have been related to Joseph Brant, which up on Canada, it's not really a good thing to be related to him sometimes, if you know the story. But anyway, they had a son named Small Cloud Spicer, and he became a chief himself, and he married a Cayuga and Oneida woman, and so forth, and down on the line, somewhere along the line, my grandmother's great-grandmother's family, and this is on my mother's side, emerged, and those are the White Crows. And for a while we were in with the Wyandots in what's now Kansas. Back then Kansas was part of Indian Territory. So although I'm enrolled in Seneca Cayuga Nation, in all likelihood I don't have Seneca. I have Mohawk, Oneida, Cayuga, probably Wyandot, and of course from my father's side, German, Scotch Irish, or Scotch English, excuse me. But so, you know, I tell that story because, you know, when I, not long after I found that out, I got to go to Pittsburgh to the Fort Pitt Museum, and the war club that was left at the Spicer farm by Logan is in that museum, and I got to touch it. And so today, you know, in Oklahoma, the Spicers and the White Crows, you know, we're all related, but they're big families down there. And I just saw it today where one of my relatives, her name is Minnie Spicer, is turning 91 years old today, you know, and she doesn't look a day over 65 to me, but she's turning 91. And I thought that was pretty cool. And, you know, it's just to know physically, you know, in that way of where I come from. I don't know, when I found that, it just made everything so real. It's the best. I have a hard way of describing it, you know. And when I go back home, you know, I can go and see where my ancestors are. And you know, it's just yeah, you know, that's my family's story, you know. And I didn't learn that until late, you know, pretty late in life, but it gives me that strength and perseverance to know that what all we've been through. So anyway, Yahweh, thank you.
Excellent recounting of your life history there, brother. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. And quite a history there. So what I'll do is I'll ask Teresa, Shirley, and then Dan to follow, and then you too, Steve. Okay, Steve, get a chance to share with us. So Teresa, Shirley, and then Dan, and then Steve will follow. Then we'll open up to everyone to share if you like. Thank you. Go ahead.
Ani Poso. I'm Teresa Subrel. I guess one off the bat, I would be my great-great-great-grandmother. I sent a picture of her earlier, but I don't know if they had a chance to get it in on the slide. She's recognized in the museums and that in Ontario, near Owen Sound. And in the 1800s, being an Anishinaabe, she hopped a train, hopped a boat, and went to see the Queen of England to get land and rights for our people. And to be a woman and a Native woman at that time, traveling, I think is impressive and amazing. And later when she came back, she was teaching our people in Ontario, in Lower Michigan, and in Upper Michigan, our rights that we had to farm, but it was limited rights. We had to farm a certain way. We could only grow certain things, and she learned how to grow those and learned our rights and was guiding the people. And so once again, that would be seen as a big mouth woman, empowering people, seen as trouble. And
I've got her picture up, T.
Oh,
there she is.
And I'm named after her. That's one of my names, Nana Buck.
She's with us.
Miigwech talk. And so I think about her. You know, not all of our ancestors has a 100% perfect story that we're proud of. You know, she married a white guy. She became Christian. And as a traditional, I'm not so proud of that. But her principles, her morals, her values, everything she did for the people, how she carried herself was good. She wasn't turning her back on our ways. She, in fact, was doing everything she could. And so to see the whole story is also to persevere, I think. And So she's one of the names I have. I was named after her. And so that she's just one. But over the years, I've been shown the old ones. The elders would use me for that in different places. And I'm Eagle Clan on that side of my family, on the Anishinaabe side. And I think about wherever we go in our migration journey of my people, where old ones were that were Eagle Clan as my family. And from the migration, when the Miga would come and to move on and trust in spirit, to move on to the unknown and to make camp and leave some behind, all of that it takes is huge to me. And I think about it and apply it in every aspect of my life, all the way down to the time here where I'm at. My family's in Ontario when you think about blood and surname, but Eagle Clan. So even here where I'm where our people's end of our migration journey would be. And I see where places where our people were living in such a way. I break down crying sometimes. It was so beautiful. We had a good life, and we called each other brother and sister, these other clans. They're all my family. The way they loved them, I loved them too. And they got pushed on and rounded up, but they knew you do what you gotta do in a good way, stay in a good way. You know right from wrong, do right. And sometimes that means you gotta put some things down quietly, protect it, because the next generation or so many generations from now will find it and pick it up. It'll be instilled with them so deep and strong because you pushed it in there and you fed it and kept it alive. And they knew that about us coming. They knew that we would find that. And again, trust in spirit like they did. So whether it was through hardship or just spirit coming, good, bad, or indifferent, to trust in that spirit and the unknown. And simply doing right, I think, is amazing to me and causes me to persevere always in speaking up, no matter the cost, gain or not, whether the right comes out of it or justice or not. You simply do what you're supposed to do and be. And I also think about Dragonfly. I call him one of our dinosaur beings. And I think about how long he's been around and that what he travels to come back. And the plant beings, especially this time of year, they died away. The major part of them died away and left in their roots, just like us, instilled in us is generational trauma and dysfunction, but also our innate knowledge and teachings. And that is what's in the roots of the standing peoples of the trees, the plant beings. And the seasons come, and boy, they can be harsh here. And you can have the droughts and you can have the flooding and everything, every element you can think of. Hard conditions, it's just extreme flooding, and then boom, it freezes when those plants didn't need that much water and it could have just rotted them away. And they persevered through winter and they came up in the spring. And then the winds and the rains came and beat them down, and they persevered and reached for the sun every time grandfather came and grandmother moon came. They pulled and did their part. They just simply would be. And whether they're going to gift somebody medicine and save their life and be maybe remembered and honored and thought of, or just simply feed their family and be, was the greatest gift, to feed each other by simply being and doing your part. They remind us that being what some people think is ordinary is the most important thing. And so I look around me and they're relatives to me. They feel like sisters, great sisters, and grandfathers, medicines, old ones and young ones. And you can see their age and when they came here, and I think about all that they persevered to still be here or to make it here. They're new to us. Like the frog leaf, the elders called the frog leaf, the plantain. That's invasive here, but it's a wonderful medicine and it made it here. It persevered and it has helped our people now since. So there's so many I think of, and through them, they give us so many teachings of perseverance and to be proud and where our place is. Great, small, it is all great. Anyway, I'm going to pass it on. Miigwech. We went in.
Teresa, before you go, can you see the screen? I have another image up that you had sent.
Yes, that's another one of her book quick, and that's my great grandmother over in Ontario, and they honor her now over there, which is kind of huge too, because of the laws and the treaties. For the longest, if your descendant tree came on your grandmother's side, which, you know, because we were maternal and it changed to paternal, and the people fight over that today. Kind of the history of, you know, how they did that. So for her to be honored is pretty huge, but that is her. When I first saw her face, my dad, he's passed away too, and a residential school survivor. So another one of perseverance. But my dad showed me her picture, and I went, geez, she looks like a thug. Look at her face. She's just tough. Why? But I'm told I resemble her in a lot of ways. And so to learn to embrace your features, you thought that, because non-Native people always think you look what some people call stoic. They think that you look like you're looking mean at them, and it's just our resting face. It's just our face. But what it took to be her and to carry yourself in what some call grace, to stay humble. I just think in so many ways what she did. And no, none of us are perfect, and neither is our creator or our universe. But what you do with your imperfections is what matters. And the heart you carried through it, your intentions and your thoughts, where they were going. You know, was it attention? Was it ego? What are you persevering through? Your wounds and rising above it, you know, in all enduring. You know, she just is pretty impressive to me in a lot of ways, and teaching me in a lot of ways, because for the longest I've been ashamed of her because she was Christian. Not because she married a white guy, because she was Christian. But I'm proud of her story. And I just felt like, how could she turn? How could she turn? But I understand. I mean, I don't have that part of the story. And they say when she got to the Queen of England, they lined all the people up to visit the Queen, to present to the Queen. And the people, she would put her hand out, and the people would kiss the Queen's hand, and she was coming from Indian country, Christianized or not. And she just kind of looked at her with that face, that mean mug and looking face, that she just looked tough. And she looked at the Queen like, you want me to kiss her hand? Like, it was so foreign to her. And so she stood there and she was like, and walked on. And the Queen's ladies was like, oh my gosh, and just shut the doors to visitation, ushered everybody out, and just ended the visitation. It was just an uproar. And the Queen was taken by it. It was like, I want to see that woman. I got to know about her. And she called her in. And so my great grandmother went into her and talked to her about the issues that our people were facing in Canada, and a little bit about those and the United States, because we didn't have that border. We didn't recognize that border, and about our land rights and what they were doing to us. And the Queen gave the support, which was kind of hard, but at the time, the Queen and the provinces and, you know, the throne back then, so who ruled Canada. But yeah, it took a while yet. It took other supporters besides her, besides my great grandmother, to affect the changes that needed to come, and we're still working at. But I thought that was so interesting, you know, how she responded, because I'm the same way. With Doc Foster, I had a hard time calling him Doc. I see him as an elder, and in our history, Lakota and Anishinaabe, and he just impresses me in about 10,000 ways. And he reminds me of our elders in the ways he is. And I'm thankful for his education and what he did with it, and his humility, how he carries himself and how he impacts people. So he's another one to add to the list. And, you know, we have this prophecy about our people coming together, and he's the first one I can say that I can see that happening, because if there's more like him out there. So I honor him if I could, you know, and so I'm thankful for him. And but anyway, I'm going to pass. Miigwech for sharing that. Talk for sharing that, Steve.
Good morning. In our language, when we see you, a long time ago, I was told that we hug you and we go, "Ich," in your ear, and you say, "Ich," in my ear. So that's an old greeting. And nowadays we say "Dointa." Dointa means, "How are you?" The response to that is, "As soon, I am fine." And if you want to say "and you," you say "Nintu." And the other person would reply, "Sikun as soon, I am fine too." So that's the nowadays greeting. Most of us hug each other. Thank God COVID isn't what it was like 2.5 years, 3 years ago. We're all happy to be hugging again. My name is Shirley May Holmberg. I'm turned 70 years old on March 5th. The people I come from are called Tonitzagal Tsihna. I come from the middle people of what's known as Athabascan people. There's 11 different dialects of the language here in Alaska and the interior, and each group of Athabascans have a clan system. We are matrilineal people. We follow our mother's clan. When our boys get married, whoever they marry, their children become whatever that the wife is. I was born in a place called Hohudodetlatlen, and that's the area where the village of Tanana is. And that word means something about where the willows grow. It's near where the Yukon and Tanana rivers meet. I am, according to the blood quantum system, I'm 3/4 what they call Athabascan and 1/4 Swede. My father was from the lower Yukon area and his father was from Sweden. He was half Swede according to the blood quantum system. My mother was a full-blooded Athabascan woman. She was from a village called Galena, which is like about the middle of the Yukon maybe. And then her mom was from a place called Cross Jacket, which is by Hohudodetlatlen, and her dad was from way up the Kaikouk River. And not too long ago, we didn't have settled communities. I'm the second generation having to speak the English language. I'm also the second generation having to go to school. I used to ask, why do I have to go to school? And I was told that by my mother that her and my dad would get in trouble if I didn't go to school. So I went to school. My mother read those fairy tale books and stuff to us when we were little children. Hey diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle, the cow jumped over the moon. I used to wonder, how do I know those kind of things, you know, because it has nothing to do with my people. We don't have cows, maybe moose cows, but we don't have cows. And my mother told me, when you kids were little, I used to read to you all the time. So from that, I learned to read, and I'm somewhat of a wordsmith. I am a Scrabble champ, for those of you that play Scrabble. I love weird words, and I can understand just about anything. I'm taught that we have everything we need built into us already. We have all the knowledge of our ancestors, whether we want it or not. Our mother and our father and our grandparents and our great-grandparents, it's already built in. If you don't speak your language and you start learning, it'll come to you. You'll be able to say the words right. Some of the words I learned, I try to learn the longest words. So if I learn the longest words, I can I can say just about anything, right? And I think I've said this before. There's a word called Adawoyani Walidanik in our language that means take good care of yourself. And it has about 26 letters. My father was from the lower Yukon. He was raised by his Swedish grandfather. When his Athabaskan mother died, his father got a little a young woman from, I believe she was Yupik, and she must have been about 12 or 13 years old. And he was already an old man by then. And to take care of the children. So my father mostly listened to his father, who was Swedish. So he had this dark brown skin, and he sounded like a Swedish man. He had that accent. And we have no choice in who we live with or where we go as children. We go wherever they're taking us, right? The parents, grandparents, and we learn from all kinds of people. Fortunately, I was around my people pretty much all the time. And fortunately, I had aunties. My mother's sisters, she had 3 sisters, and they influenced me quite a bit. They each took a hand in teaching me this or that. My mother was in a boarding school when she became a young woman, and her boarding school was a long way from her home. So she learned how to take care of herself from whatever women were there. So you ladies know what I'm talking about. It's that special time of the month. And so guess what my mother taught me? Basically what she learned. So since then, I've learned quite a bit more. This lady here and this man in the photo are my great-grandparents. The lady's name is Yindad Leno. I was given her name by one of my aunts. Her name is from the old language. I'm told it's from the old language. And there probably aren't any speakers of the old language. And her name was Yindad Leno. And they tell us we become like the name we're given. So I asked, how was Yindadlino? And they said, she did everything good in our women's way. So whatever women needed to know, she did it well. And the man that's standing next to her is Chief Paul. And you notice their skin clothing. They're my great-grandparents. And I have other photos of my grandparents on both sides. And the native and the non-native, the Swedish, on my Swedish side. We have photos of my grandfather's father. And he's in a suit and his wife is sitting there in a chair, and they're the classic picture of, you know, the man standing up and the woman sitting down. I have that photo. We've been blessed to have those. And I noticed that my ears, if you ever see my ears, they stick out. They look like they can fly. Not that, they're not that bad. They look like this. But when I was little, my mom used to pull my hair back and my ears used to stick out. But I've come to know those as my dad's, from my dad's side on the Swedish side, because all those old Holmberg pictures have those ears. My old Swedish grandfather and great-grandfather, they have those ears. We do have genealogy from both sides. I have a sister, older sister, that researches quite a bit, so we know quite a bit. Learning my culture, there were, and I could talk forever, there were things that I learned as I grew up, you know, what I got to be exposed to. Learning the language, learning some of the language. I'm very much into our spiritual beliefs. I don't talk about them very much. I'm very much into our culture, the songs and the dances. And those I all learned by watching elders sing and copying what they sing, and then learning what the words mean. And I say I know about 70 to 80 songs, or maybe more than that now, from all the different potlatches I've been to in my lifetime. So, you know, culture, just go hang out in it and don't be shy to do whatever the elders are doing. You know, just don't act crazy and you'll be okay. And oh yeah, observe the taboos for women. You know, you really got to observe those taboos if you know them, and be mindful. And if you are, your life gets pretty good. Gets to be pretty good. And I could talk forever. Anabasi, thank you very much for listening to me. I appreciate it, and I hope I assisted in this effort. Anabasi, thank you very much.
Dogpile, are you here with us still? You're up. And we'll do Kwavi after this. Kwavi, good to see you.
Almatakipi, Dan Foster, and Manchapelo. Nahayua, Chante Washtea, Napichua Kilo. Long time ago, somebody asked me, what would you prefer we call you? Native Americans or American Indians? I laughed and told him, depends on if I like you or not. If I like you and you called me Native American, we'll stick with that. If I don't like you, I'll say American Indian, or vice versa, because we didn't call ourselves either one of those things. But one of the things that I was told as a child that we did call ourselves was real people. By real people, it wasn't a shade to anyone else. And so I'm going to say some things that are contradictory to the things that have been said before me, not as a wise person. I'm kind of an idiot savant. Well, I don't know about the savant, but the idiot part I'm pretty sure of. And when I got to school, I had to learn words like reticular activating system and things. And one of my aunties would say hallelujah because she was Pentecostal and she's glad to hear me speaking in tongues. And I'd say, no, auntie, that's a word. That's a word in English. And in English, if you become a professional, you learn complicated ways to say simple things. It's kind of the opposite of our languages. Of our languages, we don't have a lot of description in the language I know. So you'd have to go look at the tree yourself. In English, I can describe it. But there's things I can say about my relationship with the tree, and there's things I can speak as a relative of the tree, or there's ways the tree can speak through me that English does not allow. And so one of the things that I'm going to contradict, but it's not a contradiction, so I hope you realize that, is that what if each one that has spoken is perfect? What if each of you are perfect? What if each insect, what if each four-legged, what if each swimming one, each fish, each singing one, each bird, each standing one, each tree, each plant, what if they're perfect? What if individually they're simply themselves and perfectly themselves? And what if collectively there's a perfection too that we still maybe don't fully grasp because maybe we're not fully in charge. Maybe we're just a participant, as are all the elements. And what if the elements are alive? And what if the elements are alive and related, perfectly alive? What if all the things that we make up, of course I laugh a lot, and Teresa brings laughter to me. And what if the hell that many of you believe in and we're taught about, what if we're drawn to where we look? Sometimes when we live in mountainous area, and when we drive, my kids won't say, "Oh, Dad, there's a moose over there, there's a grizzly there, or elk there." They won't say that because they've noticed that the car tends to steer to whatever direction I'm looking. And if we're near, and if we're close to an edge, and some of the edges in Indian country still don't even have something to keep you on the road. You'll just go down that ledge. You'll just go off that road. And but what if it's all perfect? And what if we're a part of it? And what if part of what calls to us isn't just the beautiful honorings that we've heard of ancestors, but what if part of what calls to us is those who aren't born yet? And not necessarily just the two-leggeds, not necessarily just the flying ones. What if it is awesome to be Ik Chewi Chasha, Ik Chewi An? What if it is awesome to be a real human being, a real man, a real woman? And what if in that awesomeness, what if some of the hardships that you have experienced in this life are to allow you to be an answer to prayer for young ones that aren't even born yet? They haven't even prayed the prayer yet. And yet you've already responded to it. You've already begun making medicine for that moment, collecting medicine for that time. When Ray spoke of the tulips coming up late, and we're still having snowstorms here. We've had snow off and on, and we're continuing through this weekend. Blizzard-like conditions this time last week. So I want to greet each of you, and I want to honor each of you as as real beings, as real beings. What an awesome gift this gift of consciousness is. What a strange perspective to view us as the center of the universe, to attribute to the creator humanity. And an interesting, but that is one of the teachings of Judaism and Christianity, is that we're made in the image of God. And so that we are the image then of God. The Planet of the Apes was a fun movie for me in some respects. I was a young man when that came out and hadn't yet been drafted. I was going to get drafted the next year. And the next year, my older brother, who was already in the Army, and he was an officer. He didn't meet very many dark-complected, full-blood Indian officers. My older brother isn't full-blood Indian either, but he looks it, and he's very fluent in our language and our ways. And so in June of '69, he lost most of the fingers off both hands and the use of his left leg in a place called Da Nang, outside of Da Nang. He was a forward observer for a Red Lake with the 173rd Airborne out of Da Nang. He was with artillery attached, well, not attached, he was part of the 173rd. And the next month, my younger brother, who I loved so much, and left us in a car accident. And by that next summer, I was in 1970, I was in a hospital. I'd been injured and was recovering. Now I bring up some of that story because and I heard people talk about blood quantum and stuff, and I heard Ray play with that and explain. My wife, that you saw her come by a while ago, one of her grandmothers was literally sold to a Spanish man who was a voyager. He bought her as a child, and she has within her direct lineage some Spaniards that came to Mexico, and one of them came up to the United States as a voyager and purchased this Indian child and had 2 children with her. And we can get into the stories. Now we can say, ooh, those are horrible stories. And my on my Indian side, they survived the Trail of Tears on the Tsalagi side. They survived the Little Bighorn on the Kota side. I can't tell you what they survived on the white side. I'm not able to do that. But I do want to talk from the perspective of those who aren't born yet. And I do wish to share a song. This is called a piercing song, but it's actually not a piercing song. I mean, it is a piercing song, but it's a song that has to do with renewal, and it has to do with what the thunder beings bring each spring, and the life. Some life can only come through death. I find that so amazing. That one of the ways that the redwood, those incredible beings, one of the ways they germinate is through fire. And yet if the fire is too intense, it will destroy the seed, and there will be no germination. And it will destroy the redwoods that previously occupied. There was a grove of many trees, more than 1,000 years old, that was greatly affected just last summer, of redwoods. And I don't know if you've ever had a chance, but when the Crystal Cathedral was such a thing, I'm still more likely to take a walk among the redwoods and find them so amazingly awesome, and wondering what is it that I can learn from them? What is it that I can be told if I just sit here for a while, and maybe if I fast and pray and just be, maybe we could spirit travel. Maybe I could spirit travel to some of the things that this standing one here has seen in its over 1,000 years at this very place. And so I'm going to share with you a piercing song, but it's actually a doctoring song. It's actually a healing song. I'm not going to sing the 4 push-ups. I'm just going to sing the 2 push-ups. One of the things that I so like about Shirley and Teresa, Kiawe hasn't shared yet, but he's going to, Steve and Ray and Robert, Jim, is in our ways, we do talk, I suppose, about Creator, but in our ways, we actually speak with Creator. We actually speak with the flora and the fauna. We actually speak with the insect, the singing ones, the stinging ones, the swimming ones. We actually are in relationship. And we're not the center of any universe, but we're a part of a much more complex biosphere. In a way, we're all, you might not realize it, but we're all traveling on this planet Earth very fast through space. And what they called atmosphere is our space helmet. And it both connects us to this Earth, it's the gravity that connects us to Unchimakar, Grandmother Earth. I loved even listening to, now I want to ask Shirley more questions about her experience as kayak and Athabascan and as Tanana. I got to play a basketball tournament in Tandem many years ago. I ended up with a jacket, thanks to Rusty Sweetser. Oh, he was good. My teammate. We beat some really tall boys that got recruited. Some of the teachers by Tanana on our short little team from Galena still kicked their butt. Just with superior basketball. How fun was that? And so I'm going to sing this song, and then I will close. Pakataka hunchi malaye, wanikta chale chamu heya 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 Pakataka unchi malaye, wanikta chale chamu heya Matakuya. So I want to thank my wife, Wambli Ho Washdewi, and my daughter, Tashunka Otawi, for joining me in that song. But in the song, we move energy. With the songs, we call forth energy. And that's all we are, is energy. And all this earth is energy. There's the Tonka. He's going to run off. But we're part of this energy, and we contribute to it. We're affected by it. When others spoke of death, but in a way, there of course there's death in our humanity. But I'm going to propose that maybe each of you are perfect, not perfect according to our aspirational values, but perfect in the being that you came here to be. And I've always loved the story of Joseph in the Bible at the boarding school that I attended. We had Bible study every day, chapel every day, church services several times a week. And if you could sing, you would go out and sing for white Christian churches on the weekend, and sometimes take tours and visit Christian churches and do a thing for home missionaries and whatnot. It was interesting. I wasn't, my brother and sister could really sing well, and they continue. This brother and sister are still alive. They continue to sing well. Me, I was shy. Some of you who know me well are surprised by that probably. And so the first time I was asked to sing and do that traveling thing, it was an Easter Sunday, and I threw up on the microphone. I was never asked again. Well, bless you guys, and thank you so much. I'm going to have to pull off this call, but thank you, relatives. Haumatakuya.
Thank you, brother, for joining us. Please be well and take care of yourself. And Kwabe, are you ready?
I'm here. My connection. I've got a few people been very impactful on my life, and some that are just distantly related to, referred to as Ayuin. And he is actually on the back of this book. He has, unknowingly, he had contributed to a big piece of our culture by sharing his practices with other practitioners. And they sold his information to someone and made a book out of it. So because they did that, we have documentation of different kinds of things within our ancestors traditionally, and what they did as prescriptions and roles that we played in very specific means. But the other people that I have to share stories with, I guess the first one would be my uncle, John Grant. And here's a regalia and allowed me to have a place in this world as an orator and a historian. That's where it all started, was his tutelage, being able to be there for me and guide me in a specific way. And I will always be indebted to him for teaching me how to use my voice, not as my own, but as an ancestor. The next big impact is my auntie, about years ago. Her name is Becky Walker. And here's her in her graduation regalia, making a funny face, and her with me as a child. She had cancer, and she had died with my uncle about the same time. I'm reminded of how strong my family is through my auntie. She prepared everyone in the family in the community. She spent the last 2 months of her life in deep preparation with the aunties and with our family. I have I guess it's breaking up again, he says.
Yahweh, you're
Pictures
in
of
and
my
out.
auntie that I'm talking about.
We're in and out. You're in and out on your audio, but I don't know if you're able to share some of those pictures you were referencing too. We'd love to see.
Let me see if I can get on my
Yeah, do you have a
my phone. It was
dial-in number?
that's what I was thinking. It's the one you have, Steve.
Yes. Let me see if I can send you the dial-in number.
Friday. Let's see. Here, I'll do this.
And you can screen share too if you're able. I can pull this one down.
Let me see.
You just got too many mountains there in North Carolina. Your signal bounces in and out.
I'm so sorry about the difficulties, guys.
Those of you that don't know, Yahweh is a wonderful storyteller, and so I know many of us love to hear you share.
Yeah, I was sitting on the edge of our seats here, Kwabi, but I wanted to share with you that here in New Mexico, where we are, Navajo, now we're experiencing 50-mile-an-hour winds across our lands. So the reason why Robert explained earlier that his Wi-Fi connection, and he doesn't have hardwire Wi-Fi. It's not wired in off of a satellite dish. His connection's really in and out. When the wind was starting, right now we're right in the middle of a strong windstorm. So much of Navajo land is covered in a big sandstorm. I'm seeing pictures on social media about it, but I just wanted to explain how the situation with Robert. Kwabi, thank you.
I think I've fixed it. Do you guys hear me better?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you sound good.
Okay. Yes, I had to find a place for my phone and put it. So the picture of me and my auntie. My auntie when she was graduating. She was the one that prepared her death for the community and the family. And she went out with such beauty and such grace. She even put together a ceremony that hasn't been done for a few hundred years. And she asked me the unthinkable question at the time. But she said, I couldn't imagine anybody else doing a better job. She asked if I would dance a booger dance for her. And so I made the attire for my auntie. And this dance is done to try to take a sickness away or try to get it to leave that person so that it does not affect anyone else. And my grandmother had had cancer, and my mother had a scare, and my uncle, like I said, had just passed right before her from cancer. And I didn't have time to question if I was able to do this dance for her or not. I only started working on the preparations. And on this night that we did this dance, it was the hardest dance I've ever had to do. And I was trying to dance that sickness away from her. And I'm not sure if I did, because she was starting to withdraw mentally. But she let out a pretty gruesome cry. And as much as I wanted to buckle, I didn't. I tried to bring it away from her. But when she passed, the council had enacted a new law known as Becky's Law. And it gives every member the right to speak on any subject as long as they sign their name, which did not exist before. You would have to get it from your council member to speak for their 3 minutes or whatever they were willing to give you. And she was a very active proponent for our people within our government. And that type of intention comes from our people being so intentional that every piece of your life matters. And every action that you choose to do or not do needs to be intentional and powerful. So my auntie went out, but she changed the world around her. She left 2 small children under the age of teenage years. And she left all of us here to carry on work. She had wonderful examples, like her mom is a social worker, and her other auntie is also a social worker, which is my great aunt. But I call her Grandma Patty. And as you can see, she's right here in the middle. She's a short-statured lady, and here she is, again, in her younger years, being caught unbeknownst to her. She has the biggest laugh, and you can hear her from, I feel like, miles away. And the feeling that she brings is overwhelming love and acceptance, which is indicative of our Shkadugi Dikanoa dynasty, our community laws. But all of these wonderful women and men have raised all of us in our generation to be our own people. And the next picture I'm going to show you guys is me, my brother, my sister, and 2 of my cousins. So this one here is my brother. He's looking about how he's gonna, wrong me the next time. I don't know what's gonna happen. And, as you can see, I'm very contemplative over something that's definitely nothing involved with our family. Here's my cousin Chanel and Jatana. Jatana's also going through some medical things right now, being supported by the family. She is another cultural coordinator in our museum, documenting and doing good things for our people. And she had took my place at the treatment center I was at. And my brother, he has 2 children of his own now. And he's making his way through this world, and he struggles with addiction, the same one I did, which was alcohol. And my sister is currently serving a prison sentence until her youngest turns 18. I wanted to share these personal stories about my family. Because I know that our people go through quite a bit. Not saying that everybody doesn't, but I reflect on the demographic and the numbers that I see and what happens to the families that I help or try to intercede with, and the kind of intention I want to bring to my life and to my people every day, to make every interaction count and to be of worth and to have a purpose. And I feel that experiencing history and making the now possible will lead us to a future that we want, that we all need. But the thing that serves us the most is that connection. So I appreciate all of you today for allowing me to be here, sharing this space with me, and allowing me to connect. I hope that helps.
Very touching stories from everyone from the panel today, Kwame. You've blessed our lives and enriched our lives with your stories of strength and perseverance. Yeah, for doing that with us today. Been an honor to hear all the stories. Steve, I'd mentioned that we're going to give you part of the floor here for sharing with us. So go ahead, Ida, brother.
Well, I just wanted to say and acknowledge we've had some good participation, and I want to acknowledge Dave Natsaway, who's one of our advisory council members. He's here with us. Dave, it's always good to have you along. And Ray and Teresa Subrill are both part of our advisory council and consultants with our center. And Shirley is also doing consultant work with us. And of course, Dan Foster, advisory council and consultant, we're honored to have with us. So just wanted to put that out there. And I just want to reiterate how really wonderful this last couple of hours have been. And I want to thank everyone for joining and being part of this. And we'll save some stories for me for another time, Ray. I promise. But I know Erica P had her hand up early. I didn't know, Erica, if you wanted to make a comment or had something to say. Maybe that ship has sailed already. But I know you had your hand up earlier. Well, again, I want to thank everyone. And one thing that I'm reminded of is that I don't know a lot about my ancestors from Northern Europe. They call to me, but I'm still yet to explore and seek them out. But what I do know and I'm reminded of is that my ancestors it was said so beautifully by Shirley that they live within me, and their memories and their spirit are within me, and nothing can take that away. And I've just yet to discover. And so I just really want to take that with me today. And I want to thank you for that, Shirley, and for the others sharing part of who they are and part of their family. It's a it's an intimate thing to share, and it takes courage and trust. So just want to thank you all. And we're going to broadcast again in a couple of weeks for session 5. And I believe Kiawe will be the lead panelist in this discussion. So we're really looking forward to that, and we'll have another subtitle ready to go and a theme along the lines of spring. So I wanted to just again thank everyone. We're approaching the top of the hour. I think Teresa was going to take us out in the right way. And Teresa, I will again relinquish the floor to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Go ahead, Teresa. Go ahead and close us out. And thank you, everyone.
Miigwech, and I want to thank the Creator, Kichimanadu, for creating us in the first place and the perseverance it took for him. All that he saw and instilled in all of us and all that he gifted us. I want to thank the great beings that gifted their lives to become so they could be here for us all the way through all the time of creation for us here. And our ancestors. I want to thank our ancestors, all of ours, for all of the love, all of the prayers, all of the teachings, all of the perseverance, all of the living by examples that they did. Good, bad, or indifferent, what it gives us and honors us the ability to do today. I want to thank all of our recent elders who also persevered, pushed through all that they went through to create opportunities for us, boys and girls clubs, elder centers, schools, state boards and committees, health boards, clinics, with the vision that if we had, we would do better. We would feel better. We would get to be, to remember that love, to remember that hope, to make them proud, to make ourselves proud, who we are, who we've become every day, every chance, every opportunity. Thank our parents, whether they were functional or dysfunctional, because they still brought us here to be an answer to so many prayers. And thank you all for coming and sharing your time. Time is the biggest gift. Miigwech.
Thank you so much, Teresa, and to our panelists, and to all of those that were able to stay on and be part of this discussion. Again, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. I believe, believe it or not, I should say, May 6th, I think, is our next scheduled broadcast date. But watch your email for an invite, and we look forward to seeing you again. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay connected. And our paths will cross again. Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend.